The wealth of the invisibles. I'm about to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. While you were grinding through college, climbing the corporate ladder, chasing promotions and validation on LinkedIn, there was someone else, someone you've never heard of, quietly building wealth in ways that would make your financial advisor nervous. They retired at 32. They live in a house with no mortgage. Their kids' college funds are fully stocked. And you've never seen their face, never heard their name, never read their success story in Forbes or Business Insider. They're what I call the invisibles, and they've figured out something that the rest of us are desperately missing. This isn't about some guru selling courses or some crypto bro flexing Lamborghinis on Instagram. This is about real people, living in regular neighborhoods, who cracked a code that school never taught us and society actively discourages us from learning. I stumbled into this world 3 years ago, completely by accident, and what I found changed everything I thought I knew about money, success, and what it actually takes to build wealth in a system designed to keep you running in place. Before I go further, if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but still falling behind, hit that like button and subscribe, because what I'm about to share doesn't get talked about in polite company, and I need to know there are people out there ready to hear it. Let me take you back to where this started. I was sitting in a coffee shop in Austin, drowning in spreadsheets, trying to figure out how I was going to make my side hustle profitable. I'd been working 16-hour days for months, trying to build something, anything, that would give me breathing room from my 9 to 5. That's when I overheard a conversation at the table next to me. 2 guys, mid-30s maybe, wearing normal clothes, nothing flashy. One of them said something that made me stop typing. He said, "I cleared 42,000 last month, and I think I worked maybe 15 hours total." I looked up. He didn't look like he was lying. He didn't look like he was trying to impress anyone. His friend nodded, like this was the most normal thing in the world. My brain couldn't process it. $42,000, 15 hours. I was killing myself for a fraction of that, and this guy sounded bored. I did something I don't normally do. I waited until his friend left, walked over and asked him, point blank, what he did for a living. He smiled, not in a cocky way, in a tired way. Like he'd been asked this before and knew how it sounded. He said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." I said, "Try me." He said, "I buy things people don't want and sell them to people who desperately need them. I never touch the product. I never meet the buyers. I just connect the dots." That conversation lasted 20 minutes, but it unraveled everything I thought I understood about how money moves. What he described wasn't illegal, it wasn't immoral, it was just invisible. He was doing something called retail arbitrage, but not the version you see on YouTube where someone buys clearance items at Target and resells them on Amazon. This was deeper. He had systems, software, international contacts, automated processes that found pricing inefficiencies across dozens of markets and exploited them before anyone else noticed. He told me about a guy in his network who made 6 figures a year buying liquidated pallets of returned goods from big box stores, never opening them, and reselling them in bulk to small retailers in South America. Another person he knew had built an entire business around domain name arbitrage, buying expired domains with existing traffic and flipping them to companies who needed the SEO juice. None of these people had brands. None of them had social media followings. They didn't run ads, they didn't have employees, they operated in the margins, in the gaps, in the spaces where the market hiccups and creates opportunities for people paying attention. And here's the part that made my stomach turn. These people weren't special. They didn't have business degrees from Harvard. They didn't have rich parents or trust funds. They just figured out one simple truth that nobody teaches you. The system rewards invisibility. The moment you're visible, you're playing a different game. You're competing for attention, for credibility, for likes and shares and validation. But if you're invisible, you're competing on pure efficiency, pure value, pure execution. And that changes everything. I started digging. I wanted to know if this was real or if I'd just met a con artist with a good story. What I found was an entire underground economy of people doing things that sounded too good to be true, but checked out when you ran the numbers. There was a woman in Ohio who made over $200,000 a year filing niche insurance claims for small businesses. She had zero background in insurance. She just learned the system, learned what claims get paid out fast, and built a service around it. Most of her clients didn't even know this money was available to them. She just found it, filed it, and took a percentage. There was a guy in Florida who ran a business helping people lower their property taxes. He didn't need a law degree. He just learned the appeals process, learned what arguments worked, and did the paperwork. His success rate was over 70%, and he charged a cut of whatever he saved his clients. He cleared $500,000 a year and worked from a laptop at the beach. There was someone else who became a silent partner in small, boring businesses, tire shops, laundromats, HVAC companies. Businesses that nobody wants to start anymore but that print money once they're running. This person would come in, optimize operations, plug financial leaks, and take a cut of the increased profit. No ego, no brand, just results. What all these people had in common was that they found inefficiencies that everyone else ignored, and they built quiet, profitable systems around them. They weren't trying to change the world, they were just trying to get paid fairly for the value they created. And they did. Here's where it gets uncomfortable, and I need you to stay with me. The reason most people never find these opportunities isn't because they're hidden. It's because we're trained not to look for them. From the time we're kids, we're taught that success looks a certain way. Go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, climb the ladder, save for retirement, buy a house. The system is designed to keep you on that path because that path is predictable. It's measurable. It's taxable. It keeps you producing and consuming in ways that benefit everyone except you. But the invisibles opted out. They didn't reject society or go off the grid. They just stopped playing the status game. They stopped caring about titles, LinkedIn endorsements, corner offices, or impressing people at dinner parties. They cared about cash flow, about freedom, about time. And the market rewarded them for it, because the market doesn't care about your resume. It cares about whether you solve problems. I started testing this. I quit trying to build a brand and started looking for gaps. I found a local business that was losing thousands of dollars a year because their bookkeeping was a mess and they were overpaying on taxes. I offered to fix it for a cut of what I saved them. They agreed. I saved them $18,000 in the first year. I took 30%. It took me 12 hours of work. That's when it clicked. I'd been chasing the wrong game my entire life. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like shortcuts. It sounds like taking advantage. It sounds like something's not quite right about people getting rich without suffering through decades of corporate servitude. And that's exactly the conditioning I'm talking about. We've been taught that wealth is supposed to be hard, that you're supposed to earn it through sacrifice and pain, that if you're not exhausted, you're not working hard enough. But that's not how the invisibles see it. They see money as a byproduct of solving problems efficiently. They're not gaming the system. They're just operating in parts of the system that most people don't understand or don't have the courage to explore. Take tax lien investing. Most people have never heard of it. It's boring. It's bureaucratic. But there are people making consistent returns, buying up tax liens on properties, collecting interest when the owners pay up, or acquiring property for pennies on the dollar when they don't. It's not glamorous. You're not going to get a TED Talk out of it, but it works, and it's been working for decades. Or consider silent partnerships in service businesses. Most small business owners are great at their craft but terrible at business operations. If you know how to read a P&L, negotiate with suppliers, streamline workflows, you can walk into these businesses, offer to fix their problems, and take a percentage of the profit increase. No capital required, just knowledge and execution. These aren't secrets. They're just ignored because they don't fit the narrative we've been sold about what success is supposed to look like. Block 7. I want to tell you about Marcus. That's not his real name, but his story is real. Marcus worked in IT for a mid-sized company. He was good at his job, but he hated it. Every Sunday night he'd get that sinking feeling in his chest knowing Monday was coming. He was 38, had a mortgage, 2 kids, and felt completely trapped. He didn't have savings to quit. He didn't have a business idea. He just knew he couldn't do this for another 25 years. So Marcus started learning, not from courses or gurus. He just started paying attention to how things worked. He noticed that small businesses in his area were getting destroyed by bad IT setups. Their systems crashed. Their data wasn't backed up. They were vulnerable to ransomware, but couldn't afford enterprise-level IT support. So Marcus started offering his services on the side, not as a consultant. As a silent IT department, he'd charge a flat monthly fee, way cheaper than hiring someone full-time, and he'd handle everything remotely. Within a year, he had 30 clients. He was making more from his side business than his full-time job. Within 2 years, he quit. Now he runs his entire operation from his home office, works maybe 25 hours a week, and clears over $200,000 a year. Nobody knows his name. He doesn't have a website. All his clients come from referrals. He's completely invisible, and he's free. That's the pattern. Freedom doesn't come from being famous. It comes from being valuable and invisible. Then business block 8. Let's talk about the psychology of this, because it matters. Most people are afraid of being invisible. We're social creatures. We want recognition, validation, proof that we matter. Social media has turned this into a full-blown addiction. We measure our worth in likes, followers, comments, shares. We've confused visibility with value. But visibility has a cost. When you're visible, you're a target. You're competing with millions of other people screaming for attention. You're vulnerable to criticism, to trends, to algorithm changes. You're building on rented land. The invisibles don't have that problem. They're not trying to convince anyone of anything. They're not building audiences. They're building systems that generate value quietly and consistently. They're not worried about what people think because most people don't know they exist. And there's incredible freedom in that. You're not performing, you're just operating. I started applying this mindset everywhere. I stopped posting on social media about my projects. I stopped trying to build a personal brand. I just focused on finding problems I could solve and people who would pay me to solve them. My income tripled, my stress dropped by half. I got more time back with my family. And nobody noticed because nobody was watching. That's the point. The invisibles aren't trying to inspire you or teach you or build movements. They're just trying to live well, and they've figured out that the best way to do that is to stop performing and start producing. Here's something that might blow your mind. Some of the wealthiest people in your community are people you've never heard of. They're not driving Ferraris or posting vacation photos from Bali. They're driving 10-year-old Hondas and living in modest houses in quiet neighborhoods. They own car washes, vending machine routes, ATM networks, self-storage facilities, laundromats, boring businesses that generate cash flow while they sleep. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're just stacking capital, reinvesting, compounding quietly over decades. I met a guy at a real estate meetup who owned 37 laundromats across 3 states. You'd never know it by looking at him. He wore jeans and a faded t-shirt. He drove a pickup truck. But his businesses generated over $1 million a year in profit, and he spent maybe 10 hours a week managing them. Everything else was automated or delegated. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Rich people play a different game. They don't work for money. They build systems that generate money, and then they live off the systems. That's the invisible wealth strategy in one sentence. Stop trading time for money. Start building systems that generate money, whether you're working or not. And do it quietly, without fanfare, without ego, without needing anyone to know. Because the moment people know, they want a piece. They want to copy you, compete with you, regulate you, tax you more. Invisibility is protection. It's strategy. It's survival. I want to address something head-on, because I know some of you are skeptical. You're thinking, if this is so easy, why isn't everyone doing it? And that's the right question. The answer is that it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It requires you to think differently, to step outside the script you've been handed your entire life. It requires research, learning, risk, failure. It requires you to be okay with being misunderstood, with people thinking you're wasting your time, with not having a clear answer when someone asks what you do at a party. Most people can't handle that. They need the structure. They need the validation. They need the safety of a paycheck and a title and a clear path forward. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're someone who feels that itch, that nagging sense that there's more, that the system isn't working for you the way it's supposed to, then this is your permission slip to explore. The invisibles aren't special. They're just willing to look where others won't. They're willing to be uncomfortable. They're willing to fail in private, learn from it, and try again. They're willing to build slowly, quietly, without applause. And eventually, the compounding takes over. The systems start working. The cash flow becomes consistent. And they realize they've built something that gives them the one thing money is supposed to buy, but rarely does. Freedom. Let me give you a concrete example of how this works in practice. There's a strategy called geographic arbitrage that almost nobody talks about. It's simple. You find a service that's expensive in one location and cheap in another, and you become the bridge. A guy I know does this with graphic design. He has clients in New York and San Francisco who pay premium rates for design work. He outsources the actual work to talented designers in countries where the cost of living is lower, designers who do incredible work but don't have access to high-paying clients. He manages the relationship, ensures quality, handles communication, and keeps the difference. He's not exploiting anyone. The designers make way more than they would locally and are thrilled with the work. The clients get excellent design at rates lower than they'd pay locally and are thrilled with the results. He makes a comfortable living, working a few hours a day from wherever he wants. Everyone wins. Is he visible? No. Does he have a brand? No. Does he make more than most people with MBAs and decades of experience? Absolutely. This model works in dozens of industries: virtual assistants, bookkeeping, customer service, software development, content creation. The internet has made geographic arbitrage easier than ever, but most people don't think this way because they're stuck in the employee mindset. They think the only way to make money is to do the work themselves. The invisibles think differently. They see themselves as problem solvers and system builders. They find gaps and fill them. They create value by connecting dots others don't see. There's a darker side to all this that I need to mention. The invisibles are invisible for a reason. They've learned that the tall poppy gets cut. The moment you stand out, you attract attention. And not all of it is good. Competitors try to copy you. Regulators start asking questions. The taxman gets curious. People you haven't talked to in years suddenly want favors. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition. I've watched it happen. I've seen people build incredible businesses quietly and then make the mistake of going public with their success. Suddenly they're dealing with lawsuits, audits, competitors undercutting them, former friends resenting them. The visibility they thought would bring more opportunity just brought more problems. So the smart ones stay quiet. They build, they profit, they live well, and they keep their mouths shut. They don't write books, they don't do podcasts, they don't post on LinkedIn about their journey, they just operate. And they protect what they've built by not advertising it. This goes against every instinct we have in the age of personal branding and content creation. We've been taught that if you're not sharing, you're not growing. But the invisibles have learned that sometimes the best growth happens in silence. Sometimes the smartest move is to win quietly and let everyone else fight for attention while you're stacking capital and compounding returns in the background. There's wisdom in that. There's power in that. And there's a kind of freedom most people never experience because they're too busy performing for an audience that doesn't actually care about their success. So what does this mean for you? How do you actually apply this? Start by shifting your mindset. Stop asking, how do I build a brand? And start asking, what problems can I solve that people will pay me for? Stop looking for visibility and start looking for inefficiencies. Where are people overpaying? Where are businesses leaving money on the table? Where are systems broken in ways that you could fix? Then start small. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to take massive risks. Just start experimenting. Offer to solve one problem for one person or one business. See if you can create value. See if they'll pay you for it. Build from there. The invisibles didn't start with master plans. They started with one client, one project, one small win. They learned what worked, doubled down, and built systems around it. Over months and years, those systems grew into businesses that generated real wealth and real freedom. And they did it without anyone noticing. Another key principle: protect your downside. The invisibles aren't reckless, they're calculated. They don't bet the farm. They test, learn, iterate. They build safety nets. They keep their expenses low so they're not desperate. They save aggressively so they have options. They understand that freedom comes from having screw-you money, enough saved and invested that you can walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. That's real wealth. Not the Lamborghini, not the mansion. The ability to say no. The ability to choose. The ability to build life on your terms, without needing permission or validation from anyone. I'm going to be honest with you about something. When I first started down this path, I felt guilty. I felt like I was cheating somehow, like I was getting away with something I shouldn't be. I'd been so conditioned to believe that success required suffering, that wealth required decades of corporate grinding, that anything that came easier must be illegitimate. It took me a long time to realize that was programming, not truth. The system wants you to believe that because it needs you on the hamster wheel. It needs you working 40 years, paying into systems, consuming, staying predictable. But once you see through it, you can't unsee it. You realize that the game is rigged, but it's rigged in plain sight. The rules are available. The strategies are legal. The opportunities are there. Most people just don't look because they've been taught not to. The invisibles looked. They questioned. They experimented. And they built lives that most people think are impossible. I'm not saying this is the only path. I'm not saying everyone should do this. But I am saying that if you've ever felt like there's something wrong with the traditional path, like you're running as fast as you can and getting nowhere, like the promises you were made about college and career and retirement aren't adding up, then maybe it's time to consider that there's another way, a quieter way, a way that doesn't require you to be exceptional or lucky or connected, just willing to learn, willing to look where others don't, willing to build something valuable and let the results speak for themselves while you stay invisible. So here's where we are. You've just been exposed to a way of thinking about wealth and success that runs counter to everything you've been taught. You can dismiss it, go back to your regularly scheduled programming, keep doing what you've been doing and hope for different results. Or you can sit with this discomfort and ask yourself, what if this is real? What if there really are people all around me building quiet wealth while I'm killing myself for scraps? What if the path I'm on isn't the only path, or even the best path? That question is going to sit with you. It's going to nag at you in quiet moments. And that's good. That's the beginning of change. If this resonated with you, if something in your gut said, yes, this is what I've been feeling but couldn't articulate, then I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep pulling back the curtain on how the invisibles operate, on strategies that work but nobody talks about, on the truth about wealth that you won't hear anywhere else. Hit the like button so I know this is connecting with people. And most importantly, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm crazy. Tell me if this makes sense or if it scares you or if you've seen this in your own life. Even if you disagree, even if you think I'm full of it, comment. Because these conversations matter. This is how we break the programming together. The invisibles are out there, building, profiting, living free. The question is, are you going to stay where you are? Or are you going to start looking for your own gaps, your own inefficiencies, your own path to freedom? The choice is yours. But now you know it exists. And you can't unknow that.